joining me, Paul, and also for all the support and guidance you've provided us over the years. Can you please let people know what you do and how long you've been working in the education sector for?
Yeah, hey James. Yeah, no, great to talk to you today. I am an architect. I've been working in education for over 20 years, which really ages me, I guess, doesn't it? I've worked across all the education sector, continue to do so. So all the different strands, the schools, the colleges, nurseries, university, and also now more in vocational training facilities as well. And we've just been acquired by Arcadis, which we might talk about a little bit later on, where I lead the education sector and work for a sort of a architecture and urbanism division, which we've recently set up.
Thanks, Paul. So we'll jump in with the first question, which has been left by Jane O'Leary from ISG. Jane asks, how do we collaborate as an industry to come up with the solutions that we need for the future? Is it all bound by procurement? Because that's the thing that always gets thrown in. It would really be interesting to hear your views on this, please, Paul.
Yeah, we are pretty besotted by procurement, I think, and I think the danger of procurement is, of course, we sometimes lose out on the quality and the legacy that I think we're trying to create, and I think we all want to, everything that we do, we want to be able to create a legacy in the next 20, 30 years, create places, create better education facilities, and have a better impact in the education of our children and our students. But I do think we're more besotted with procurement, and I do think we're more besotted with cost and delivery. And that's not to say that's not important. It is important, but I think there's more we can be doing for legacy. I think there's more we can be doing for building beautiful, and I think that really is about substance. That's not about style. That's about designing places for people and putting a bit more thought and investing more time in creating legacies, collaborating with people earlier on in the design process, so that we actually we actually engage more with people, so we can actually create places and facilities that people actually want and people actually need. I do think collaboration is crucial. I mean, our Conscious Jane works for ISG, so obviously a main contractor, and I think it's important we collaborate with people like Jane and all sides of the construction and design industry, I think, to create something a lot better that's more focused on the process, and I think less on the procurement and less on the financial.
And as a sort of designer and architect, kind of where do you sort of draw your inspiration from in terms of for upcoming and future projects that you're working on?
I think it is around that change. I think architects get given this sort of perception that all we're focused on is what something looks like, and the impact it has on the outside. To me, that's not the driver. I think we face so many challenges in the education sector around funding, around cost, and we're all well aware of the challenges that we have in terms of resilience, in terms of needing to do a lot more with very little. And to me, the inspiration I draw is from how do we navigate that? How do we get around that? And how do we create something better with something very little? And I think a lot of that is around engaging with our communities, and navigating processes such as working with local authorities, working with wider stakeholders, working with the private sector to help create something better for everybody.
And would an example of that be what you're doing currently with the project in Wandsworth?
Yeah, I think to a great extent it is. Yeah, I think that's probably not a bad example. I mean, I've done quite a few of those projects over the years. I suppose just the context of that is, yeah, it is a mixed-use development. It is a primary school, does include a nursery, does include recreational facilities. It's now got SEND unit as part of that as well. And but it's also working as part of a wider private development within the Nine Elms development. And I think that's really, really important, because it's very difficult to fund for a standalone primary school in that context without that wider development. Yeah, I think it's really, really important. It's like some of these developments tend to take a little bit longer to deliver, but I think the legacy that they can create is much stronger.
And you recently got promoted, so congratulations on that. For those that don't know how the recent integration of IBI into Arcadis has gone and what opportunities that now presents, can you share with the audience the approach that you and your team are taking to continue delivering good design and ultimately good client satisfaction, and the opportunities, I guess, the integration is producing for you going forward as a wider business as well?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think with so IBI Group was acquired by Arcadis for about 18 months ago now, and we've set up an architecture and urbanism division within the business, working with the other architects that were already there, which were very, I suppose, more private sector orientated, and IBI Group traditionally is more public sector orientated. So the combination of those two, I think, is really strong. I mean, I think our world is shaped by sort of climate action, urbanization, technological disruption, and I think the combination of us all together, I think, sort of creates a very strong offer and the ability to have a very positive impact in I think working around that. I think within that ANU division that we have, I think we're striving to create a very strong brand around that, and can deliver on those, I think, those challenges that we have. But I think we're also keen to make sure that we continue to deliver a very sort of personal approach to our clients. We are a big organization, but it's important we have a very personal, hands-on approach. I think that's what clients want. Clients can sometimes be perturbed by a large organization, but we have a very personal, hands-on approach, and we are maintaining that.
And I think, from working with IBI Group for many years, I think one of the things I sort of saw as a practice was particularly in the UK, was the strength you had on the research side, and how the research was sort of informing and enabling design. And I guess, is that something as a team that you're continuing to push and develop as you grow your new division within Arcadis?
Yeah, most definitely. It's so important. And I think the thing I've always liked about our industry is we do share those insights as well with each other. I think the synergy we have within Arcadis is really strong, and I think Arcadis believes very much believes in the research and development ideas and bringing new ideas to the fore. So I think that's one of the things that's been really positive about the acquisition, and we're continuing to take that forward. It's good, very positive.
Now, as an architect, you sort of mentioned you've had a number of years of experience in the sector. If I could ask you kind of which sort of one or two or few projects that you're most proud of, and why are you proud of those?
Okay, yeah. This is an interesting one. I think I'll put up three for three different reasons. I think the first one was an expansion of a primary school back in 2010, and it was a Brentfield school, which is in the London Borough of Brent. And I don't know, it comes back to this thing I said earlier about, sometimes people think architects are just there to win awards and what buildings look like. The thing I loved about this building, it was one of three. We had to deliver it in a fast track. We did feasibility to completion in a year, which was unbelievable back then. But it's not what the building looked like, it's what it did, and it had a massive impact on that school. It was a £3 million extension. It was a new hall, and it was a series of classrooms. But the impact was huge, not just on the school, but on the local community as well. And I look back at that with a lot of fondness in what we were able to achieve and the impact it had. I think the second one was my first educationally led mixed use development, and that was within the London Borough of Southwark. And that was a new school, it was a new sixth form centre, it was a new community facility, and we used private housing to help fund it. And it was a fairly new model back at the time. We started work on that in 2011. It's now finished, it's now complete, but it was quite a long process. You know, it was a top-down approach, working with politicians, working with local MP, engaging with the Mayor of London as well. But it was a bottom-up approach as well. It was engaging with the local community. And I think it was a very challenging site. So it was very important that we engaged and we got that support from particularly the bottom-up approach. Yeah, it was great. So proud of that. And I think I think thirdly, I think it's anything I'm currently doing at the moment, because they're the things I'm most proud of at the moment, because to me that's all about bringing current ideas, how we can bring about change, how we can create that legacy. So, you know, we're working with a major SEND multi-academy trust at the moment, providing a lot of strategic advice, working with them on being able to navigate what is very limited funding, particularly in at college level, 18 to 24-year-olds, and how do we navigate that through that and create a facility that is going to provide a better sort of employment opportunities for these students. Working with Wandsworth, which you mentioned earlier, how do we I think the needs have changed so much. You know, we're now sort of seeing less requirement for pupil places, but a greater requirement for SEND. So how do we navigate their estate that way? And then working with a couple of university clients that we're working with, where those sectors are changing so much. They've got significant challenges across their estate, including net zero carbon in terms of utilisation, including you know, the demographic around the pupils as well, around students. So yeah, those three things, I'd say.
No, thank you for sharing those. And you mentioned climate change, urbanism, and a few other sort of bits. In terms of from I guess from an architect's perspective, when you're considering and looking at putting in a new education building, whether it's a school, college, university, in an urban environment, what kind of are the key considerations that you're taking into account of how climate change may affect that learning environment in years to come? And how are you designing it to future-proof it for what may or may not occur with the climate? I'm sorry, it's a big question, but the climate going forward.
Yeah, come on, that's a massive question. I think sustainability is a big thing, and sustainability, we have to look at it from a number of levels. We have to look at essentially, I think it's a facility that provides for communities. I think that's the most important thing for us, and it's not just about the fabric of the building and the energy that we use. It's actually what the building does, how flexible it is, how it can evolve over the years, because buildings always evolve. The buildings are an enabler for people to do things. That's what they are. Again, it's important. It is important what they look like, because that's about soul and so forth, and visual stimulation. But actually, it's what they do. That's the most important thing. You know, we've you know, as an industry, we talk about the 5 ways to well-being. We talk about and part of that is about how facilities link in with their surrounding communities, and I think we have to get that right in the first instance. I think then we talk about building orientation, we talk about massing, and then we begin to talk about building fabric. So all those things have an impact. Building orientation always has a massive impact on the actual energy usage, to try and maximise passive measures as much as we can, and then we start looking at the building fabric itself. But if we make those first steps that we make are so important, so important.
Thank you. You kind of see when you go to European cities, along the streets and other areas, the use of trees for shading and that kind of thing. Do you think as our climate gets warmer, and as an architect, you'll need to start considering that in terms of future buildings in London or other kind of key urban areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already do. but I think the challenge there is about joined up thinking. You mentioned sort of urban spaces, but some of our estates aren't in urban places at all. But I mean, from a personal level, actually, most of mine are. A lot of the stuff I do is in urban situations, so it's important that we tie in with master plans. We tie in with. I think we need to improve our streets. I think we need to do different things on the streets. I think the high street is a fascinating thing because that's a model that certainly the retail side has changed over the last few years, and I think the opportunity for us there is how we bring our education and our health estates into the high street to sort of help activate it much better, and then to create places that people want to come. How can we improve that experience? You mentioned trees. I think that's a very simple sort of approach that can make a massive difference to our streets. I think greater pedestrianised areas and less focus on the car is really, really important as well. There's a whole host of things. It's fascinating.
I think it would be great to do a kind of a follow-up webinar on this kind of bit around particularly good examples in London and other urban areas. I think it's such an important and key topic, and one that we do touch on at Education Estates each year. But I think there's something here that if we can sort of follow up on. So as an audience, if you want to engage on that, I'll liaise with Paul and others, and we'll come back in due course with a webinar, probably in the lead up to Education Estates, to kind of cover this key topic. Right, so on to my next question, which is, I've been asking this of other kind of people having these conversations with me, is over the next year or so, what do you think are the biggest challenges that are going to face our sector?
I think the thing I love about our sector, one of the things I love about our sector is it's so varied and it evolves so much over a very short period of time. I mean, in the 20 years I've been doing it, I've seen so much change, as I'm sure you have, James, as well. I think, but I think every strand is different. So if we look at the HE sector, for instance, the student demographic is changing. There's now less international students that were there before. There's less funding. There's increased student fees, so it's having an impact there as well. So there's a massive funding shortfall. We're seeing, so certainly from a HE perspective, they've got a drive for net zero carbon. They've got less money to spend on their estate. So they're beginning to look at utilisation rates a lot more than they used to before, which I think is really interesting. We're seeing less new builds. We're seeing more refurb and remodelling, which I think is great. I think it's the right thing to do. I think in the school sector, I think there's a lack of resilience across our school estate, which I think is really worrying. I think we've seen that deteriorate certainly in the last few years, and I think that's something we need to keep working to improve. And that's not just in the building estate; that's within the teaching cohort as well. The drive for more teachers, to attract people into the profession, to keep inspiring it. The building part of it, which is our bit, is just one aspect of that. But it's all really important. And I think sort of finally, I think the further education sector is so important. And I think we're all aware of the funding challenges they've had over the last few years. But I think the opportunity there sort of sits with I think identifying the skills shortage and creating a better alignment with the local skills gap, and how the two things can work together, which will create greater sustainability for our further education colleges going forward.
And on the flip side, what do you think are the opportunities as a sector that we have over the kind of coming years?
I think the funding gap always provides opportunity, because I think the thing that struck me over the years is that the public sector always needs the private sector to support it in bringing about change and making things happen. And I think the challenges we've got aren't unique in the wider industry at the moment either. But I think I think for us to think differently, I think the things to be able to work across the private and the public sector, I think is really important. To work with local authority partners, to work with MATs, to work with private businesses. I think to come up with innovative ideas around how we can pool resources, how we can pool funding together. I think the opportunity, as well as that, is around, I think, really demonstrating where we can provide value. And that's around making sure that we identify what local need is, and then how we respond to that is how we can best pool that limited funding to provide something that people really need. That to me is best value. That's legacy. That's really important.
Now, if I may, I'm going to ask you about Education Estates. IBI Group and Arcadis, both of you have been great supporters of over the years. Now combined, are continuing to be one of our main sponsors and help shape the programme and involved in the judging. So thank you for all that yourself and your colleagues bring to the event. But in terms of from an attendee perspective, what do you feel an attendee would get out of coming to Education Estates if they haven't been there before? Probably most people have, in terms of people that have passion for education buildings, but those that haven't, what do you think it brings?
I think I mentioned earlier. I think I love about our industry is that we're prepared to share ideas. We don't work in silos, but we're prepared to share ideas, share best practice, and I think Education Estates gives us a platform to do that. Is that particularly the major event in Manchester, but all the other smaller events you do across the year as well. I think they all give us that opportunity to share those ideas, and not from an architect perspective. It's not just architects we get to meet. It's there's a very broad range of people. There's educationists, there's contractors, there's local authorities, there's universities, there's schools, there's DFE, there's other government agencies as well. But I think the thing that resonates across all those people is we all want to make a difference. We all want to do something. We all want to do something that actually brings about change, that has an impact and improves learning for the future generations. And as corny as that sounds, I do think that's the thing that brings us all together. And I think the Education Estates across all the different events you do is the platform for doing that. I really do.
And thank you for those kind words. I think we've been doing it for 12 years now, and I think for us, we are the facilitator bringing the community together. But you get a sense that we are all together, and whether you're an architect, contractor, a client, part of the supply chain, you really get that feeling that as a sector, we're all trying to deliver the best outcomes for learners, the best buildings. Yes, there are constraints on funding. Yes, there's constraints on other bits and pieces, and we've had the pandemic and other kind of bits, but you kind of really sense that passion that comes through. And I've worked in a number of sectors. For me, I haven't seen that to the level that we see in the education sector, and it's great to see, and I look forward to seeing yourself and everyone in October for that. Now, I obviously know you incredibly well, and lots of others in our advisory group and people that you work with, but for those people that don't necessarily know you too well, Paul, can you share something with them that they might not already know about you?
Yeah, I play drums in a band. What about that? I play drums in a band, and 12 years ago, we supported Foo Fighters on their UK leg of their tour.
Wow.
Half of that statement is true. Half of it is a complete fabrication. And yeah, I'm sure you can work out what side that is. But yeah, I love drumming. Great fun.
And is your band on Spotify? Can we listen to you?
No, not at all. No, we're really not that good at all. But no, I really enjoy it. Love it. We do play a lot. We have a series of gigs across the year. We've got about 14, 15 gigs this year, which is great fun. Really enjoy it. Really good outlet. And I have a drum kit just there, the other side of my screen. And it's just that thing of, if I have a challenging meeting, it's just good to go and sit over there, move the chair and go and have a bit of release.
It's really important to get that R&R time, isn't it? And I've asked a number of people things they don't know about themselves, and I'll share that I love decorating and I have a passion for golf. So I'm currently doing a lot of decorating. In fact, this morning I got up early and did a couple of hours of decorating. So I don't quite have white paint all over me because I managed to get that off before the interview, but the conversation. So yeah, I love decorating. Anyway, people didn't know that much. Our next conversation is with Dave Wood from Morgan Sindall. What question would you like to leave Dave, Paul, during our conversation that I had with him?
Yeah, cool. Right, I've had to write this down, otherwise I think this is around legacy. And I think if we're to create a greater legacy for our towns and cities, we need to focus as much on what a development does rather than just its cost and its procurement. So how does Dave believe that architects can help in bringing more to the process to make it successful for everybody?
Thank you, and I'll put that to Dave. We could have talked for hours. I love spending time with you. Thank you so much for joining me today. This video will be online shortly, and thank you very much. Take care.
I loved it. Always good to speak to you, mate.